Listen, I believe we are all at some point guilty of suckling at the power teat. The question is, which power teat are you sucking on and why? Today, we're going to be talking about tech lords changing their tune about little Trumpy Trump. We're going to be talking about the very controversial shortlist for Times Person of the Year and Jay-Z. Oh boy, I even have my personal story when I interviewed Dave Portnoy when he was under fire for Me Too allegations. That's right. Jay-Z has now been roped into the P. Diddy mess. Stick around. You know it's going down right here.
Deemed the celebrity whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touch them, Chris. You're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby.
This is good.
Taylor Ferber.
Okay, so if you haven't gathered already, today we're going to be talking all about the ever-present themes of our lives and society. What can I say? Like, we are just a bunch of lemmings who can't help but get off to being controlled. You know, the masochists of the galaxy. But we're going to be talking all about influence, leadership, but probably most importantly, public perception of said leaders. So I don't know about you, but I could not be entertained by the gripping handshakes ricocheted around the world when I saw this shit and I thought that it was AI at first, okay? With Trump going down a line of leaders at the big, highly anticipated and historic reopening of Notre Dame. I first saw this video and I thought that this was AI to the max. Literally, they're popping up like daisies. First, it's Zelensky. Then it's literally like, I'm like, Prince William and your bald spot? Like, what is happening? So you see Trump, who is our president-elect. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is like sleepy time bye-bye with warm milk somewhere in a puddle of his own drool. Okay, God knows where. And Trump it's almost as if he's like Joe Biden is still our president, right? And Trump is at this event with the biggest world leaders. He walks down one by one and they all literally stand up, shake his hand. Joe Biden was like somewhere, Dr. Joe Biden, now not to be confused, was apparently somewhere in the nosebleeds. Nobody cares. But it was so wild to see, right? Just commanding that respect. No matter how you feel about Trump, it was wild to see. And to me, it really got me thinking, what does that say about really walking into a room and owning and really having that power, right? And like, again, no matter how much shit Trump has talked on, like, everyone, like anyone literally from Ukraine and Zelensky and that mess over to the royals, I'm sure at one point, you have these people still, again, obviously giving the utmost respect. And I have a hard time believing that, like, literally, that you would think they are old buddy, old pals. They are like whispering sweet nothings like George Michael in each other's ears, smiling. Like, I can only imagine what was said. And even like you see Trump meeting with the French president, and he's known now for these like gripping handshakes of power, like giving all of these people carpal tunnel, right? But it is just something to be seen. And so this is what, even in this small little phenomenon, there's such a lesson here about power and perception, right? Because I see this as, like I said, true respect and someone who does have power. Could you imagine this little weasel, Kamala Harris? They would literally, if this was her, they're not going to waste their time. They would literally walk all over her like a kid with muddy soccer shoes after practice, like a doormat, okay? So that was striking for me to see. Like, wow, like these people know he's not fucking around, right? But with that said, how do you think? Let's do a multiple choice, okay? How do you think the media, who is still in denial, who is still living in 2016, who still may as well be in 1999, is perceiving all of this. A, as Trump being restored as a powerful leader of America, the most powerful country in the world, who actually gets shit done. Or B, that they're just shaking in their boots in his presence because he's some maniacal dictator who could release nukes on them at any moment. Like, of course, you all passed. Of course, they're going with B, right? Which is a complete and utter nonsense. But when you look at these examples that I have today, it actually is quite trippy. Because the truth is, guys, anybody could have power. But I mean, it definitely takes a special bone in your body, right? But it's almost like we can be the judge of ourselves, but a lot of it is, be it like history books, be it like MSNBC in the sewer with the clown from It, how the public shapes said leaders into what we believe about them. Like, I'm talking everybody from Regina George to Stalin, okay? So, with that said, there's a really interesting little, like, you would think this is ninth grade watching the boys arm wrestle at the lunch table because, like, they have nothing better to do. Honestly, like, their balls and their voices have barely dropped, right? But that's what we're seeing with the tech lords of AI right now. Really, like, AI, innovation, communication, science, all of it. I'm talking the Sam Altmans. I'm talking the Elon Musk, the Zucks, the Bezos, all these fuckers be playing the Squid Game to literally, actually, fuck Squid Game, okay? They're in The Bachelor vying for Trump's attention now. Like, how the tide has turned and how things have changed. So, first things first, Sam Altman, this isn't so much Sam Altman with Trump, but so, like, inadvertently it is, because it's Sam Altman and Elon Musk in like a take your dick and swing it around face off. So Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT, all the things, okay? And actually, Sora, which is OpenAI's video generator, launches today. I'm shooting this Monday, and this is some trippy shit. Like, do let these images deceive you. Like, despite the fact that there's the occasional giraffe running around with 3 legs on these videos, like, holy shit, it is mind-blowing. I'm not even the biggest techie gal, but I was down a rabbit hole because it's just so, literally, you give it a concept, it makes a video, there you have it. Like, the legacy of Steven Spielberg can just go RIP, sadly enough. And so basically what happened was, Sam and Elon were in a little tiffy-roo, and Elon filed a lawsuit against Sam Altman and OpenAI, who was in cahoots with Microsoft, essentially accusing them of trying to monopolize the tech business. And so Sam Altman, at a summit recently by the New York Times, like, also irrelevant, basically said, like, I'm not worried. Like, I don't think that Elon is gonna like really pull like the suns out, guns out, and come after us in order to like preserve his own companies. I ain't worried about it. And there's a part of me that thinks, like, how convenient. Like, I don't know if he's ever openly shit talked Elon, but I thought, like, now Elon is up there with Vivek doing the Lord's work of, religious or not, like, we got like Moses, we got Jesus, these two like reincarnated, right? With government, with the Doge, government efficiency, all that shiz. Like, it's just going to be a moment obviously, like, Elon is Trump's #1 mascot fan, whatever, and like having all of his power now, right? So I just thought that dynamic was interesting. So we shall see what plays out with that. By the way, I want to tell you guys, because you may know, I am a little, in some ways, I'm a little house on the prairie chic, because tech, I don't know, I'm a traditionalist in some ways. Like, when, obviously, my notes that I write, like, I'm fucking Thomas Jefferson, you know what I mean? I would have a pager if I still could. I've always, I've interviewed thought leaders in this space, and I've always been really sort of reluctant about AI and tech, and how far does it go, and how far does it go in eradicating like humans, taking over our brains, our lives, creativity, human jobs, all this, right? But I have to say, I've gotten over my own shit. Chat GPT. I'm about to be Joaquin Phoenix and her and start making love to this thing because I am obsessed and it has made my life so much easier. Number one, on the work front, I'm not kidding you. Okay. This is also just because I'm like a fucking loser nerd, but I'll be like, okay, tell me in chronological order what every single US president was known for in like a sentence. What was their claim to fame? Okay. Spits it out, you know, faster than you can say Ramaswamy. And then I'll be like, okay, now do one for a sentence each in chronological order, more about like more intimate with their personality. It was like boom, bang, bang. So let's give it a little. I have not greased up this bitch yet. So take that as you will. Let's see what she said. No, but I'm serious. Like it, even like I might start getting the freshman 15 all over again because this bitch makes my recipes go from zero to hero. So let's see how, hello. Let's see how well she does. I always talk to her too for the full experience. Hello.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, what do you think of my show Talk to Me Taylor on YouTube? She better get this right, bitch.
Talk to Me Taylor sounds like a fantastic blend of serious and humorous takes on trending stories in pop culture and politics. Your unique perspective and engaging style likely make it a growing favorite. I'm sure your audience appreciates your insight and humor.
Wow, I appreciate that. And I didn't even pay you to say that, did I?
Nope, no payment needed. Just calling it like I see it.
Oh,
Keep up
snap. Oh, I cut her off, but that's okay. She fulfilled her duty. So, whether I need a recipe, a historical fact, if I need to read up on Stalin, an ego boost, I mean, it is all there. So it's crazy the way that these things are accelerating. And before we know it, we'll have chips in our brains, our tits, all the things. Okay. So moving on is in the tech bro era of our lives, is who also changed their tune. Okay. Like they are Mozart, but Jeff Bezos, who had it out with Trump, like these two were like oil and water. They were like Katie Heron and Regina George at one point when Trump was first in office, right? All this. But Jeff Bezos, obviously founder of Amazon, owns the New York Post, all this, right? Now has talked about well, if you remember, the Washington Post also came under fire and got a lot of shit because he was like, I cannot in good conscience back Kamala Harris. You think this genius billionaire is gonna support this dumb idiot and work with her? Like, give me a goddamn break. Like, truly get a fucking clue. So he's now changed his tune and has talked all about his optimism and how he with Trump's future, very near future administration, and even offering his assistance and speaking about really having advocacy for bridging the gap between this administration and the American people, frankly, and distrust and hatred of the media. So that's all interesting. Like, okay, Debbie Reynolds singing in the rain, tap, 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 dancing his way back into Trump's heart, I suppose. And lastly, get a load of this if you don't know, is who else but the alien descended upon us himself and running our lives, but Mark Zuckerberg, okay, who second to what Prince William and Trump talked about, like I can't even imagine, like maybe they talked about like their hairlines or lack thereof or toupees, like I don't even know, but this is the second one I most want to know. But this guy went to Mar-a-Lago where shit, you used to think shit went down at the Jersey Shore. Let me tell you something, shit goes down at Mar-a-Lago. So he wined and dined with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and the two actually talked about tech and innovation and its growing role, and it's easy for us to make fun of all of these guys, but when you think about it, and this is kind of like a little cap on all of this whole segment, right, is how crazy it is that these few individuals, be it their genius, their place in society, their hard work, luck, timing, whatever it is, how they truly run so many facets of our lives and hold that power. I mean, you think about Zuck with Facebook, it's so easy to like joke about it, but now Facebook acquires Meta. It acquires like I'm sure your HOA, like your school bus, like basically everything under the sun, but really how we get information, how we communicate. Same thing with OpenAI, it's going to change everything. And don't even get me started on Elon Musk with his Teslas, his SpaceX, his Starlink, his literally everything, okay? Like he is Zeus of this Greek mythology. And you can interpret that as you will. Even we talk about interpretation, right? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it, of course, you're going to have the up in arms, like, nipples twisted in a wad feminists who are like, oh, all these bros, da da da. And I thought about this too. I was like, I don't think that it's, of course, it's mostly a male dominated industry, but I don't think it's by chance. I don't think it's, of course, in some ways it could be overtly sexist, but I think this is like a core fundamental thing in how men just on a primal biological level find so much wet dream joy in logistics and problem solving and figuring shit out, you know, while women sit back and we're like, okay, but like, let me make this 10 times better, like you thought. But I'm just saying, like, we're like the undercover mischievous ones, of the Dark Knight of this operation. But I'm just saying, I thought of it, that way. But also, how when I talk about suckling at the power teat, again, you see all of these, some of the world's most influential figures. And now suddenly they're changing their tune with the powerhouse that is Trump because it's suddenly okay. It's suddenly out in the open. Like, were they thinking it the whole time? Was Zuck, Bezos, all these guys just cock blocking us because it was like the cool thing to do? I mean, they're smart men. I have a hard time thinking they weren't thinking this on some level at any given point in time. So it just makes you think about power too, because don't forget, as much as these people are the puppet masters, the puppeteers, you know, of all of us little Pinocchios and Pinocchioettes, they're self-serving business in this too. So when you think about people who are in power, I don't care if it's your boss at Red Lobster. I don't care if it's your cheer coach. Think about what other people are all saying about them. Does that sway you? And also, what do they have at stake in this? So, speaking of who has stake in what, let's talk about the very controversial shortlist that was released of Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Couple things to say about this. This is so fascinating on so many levels. So, some of the nominees include Kamala Harris, which when I saw her name listed first, I almost literally did a back handspring, not in a good way, and fell off my seat. Okay. Like immediately just became a paraplegic and couldn't move anything. Okay. But I don't know if that was on purpose, but then I was like, okay, this is starting to make sense. You had Trump, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Kate Middleton, even Netanyahu. And first thing I want to address is the idea of this list even being relevant, because you have this really interesting dichotomy happening where people like myself who temporarily went Helen Keller when they saw Kamala Harris's name is going, what are you talking about? There's like 5 people in this country who voted for her. The woman couldn't string a sentence together. Like, she's been a ghost Casper everlasting since. Like, what do you mean? But it's funny because at the same time, you have people so up in arms about this, and those are the same people who will be like, who gives a fuck what Time Magazine thinks? Like, I'll forget about this list in 2.5 seconds of my day. Like, that's what's so interesting. And I thought, like, is this even relevant anymore? I mean, there's a part of me, because it's made up, by the way, the decision is made up of the editorial staff, the writers, the managers, the whatevers. And that pretty much is what they've been demoted to at this point, is the whatevers. But, for me, I don't know. Is it interesting? Sure. But again, I, pretty much forgot about it 5 seconds later. Like, just like my ChatGPT gal giving me a compliment, like, it's cool. Okay, but I'm going to need another one in 5 minutes anyway. So it's like, in it goes, out it goes. No, but again, I don't think we should hold it to the highest regard of like, this is the Nobel winner, which that whole organization is a corrupt shit show, anywho. So again, it's all sort of subjective. But with that said, it's interesting because people are so fucking pissed about the Kamala Harris thing. And what they're failing to realize, and I actually do, even though these people do reside out of the cesspool that is, for all intents and purposes, like the quote mainstream media, I do give them kudos for not shying away from controversy, because the whole point of the person of the year is to essentially shine a light on the person who created the most news and cultural conversation. So they've who do have complex, polarizing, and divisive legacies, right? So, for example, in 1938, Adolf Hitler was on the cover. Stalin, this guy was just the returning, beauty queen of the cover, because he was not on it once, but twice. And you had Putin actually in 2007 for his role in Russia's kind of resurgence and reemerging on the world stage. And you actually did have Zuck and Musk and Trump in 2016, when like obviously they have their biases, right? Because like these people would be like a fish out of water, just gasping for air and dead on arrival without it. But even when Trump was the person of the year in 2016, the headline was President of the Divided States or Divisive States, which honestly isn't not true, but you fill in the blanks and you can see where that one was going, right? So I do give them kudos for that. But I think what this really touches on that we don't like to acknowledge is people are losing their minds because they're like, oh, this cover highlighted Stalin and Hitler. So of course it would highlight Kamala Harris. And that is actually not even the point, right? Because of what I just said. But the idea that we somehow have made impact synonymous with good, as if this is like the fucking Mother Teresa Peace Corps, and not so much, bitch, right? Like, look at what Hitler did, Stalin did, so many countless others. Impact is impact. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad or good. Which brings me to none other than the ongoing sad, confusing clusterfuck of Diddy. So now you have Jay-Z brought in the mix. Now there is a woman, for all intents and purposes, Jane Doe, and they filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z for allegedly raping her with P. Diddy at a VMAs after party in 2000 when she was 13 years old. So a couple things about this that are really, really fascinating. First, I will say off of the bat, I hold your asses, like a consenting stripper. And my phone felt a type of way about that one. And 75% of you thought that where there's smoke, there's fire. So something's going on here, especially since something was filed. It's also worth noting, KFC Barstool did a good little short about this, but the lawyer is allegedly who's defending the alleged victim is apparently the sleazeball who's like known for going after people, and like we're gonna get to that in a sec. But the rest of you thought this is a black male, no pun intended, situation. So, first things first is the debate about, and I've said this from the start as a red carpet reporter who was on the literal red carpet with the Time's Up black dress extravaganza, right? That lasted for all of like 25 seconds before the hypocrisy set in, made its presence known like Hagrid. So the debate about how now this whole thing has become so muddled that we don't even know what to believe. Now it's become, because we've heard stories of people being accused and we end up finding out it was consensual. We hear stories of women, of course, there's the believe all women, and that's contrasted with women who had not so great motives and ended up lying or whatever it is. So it's all just a mess, which I said from the beginning. But what's really fascinating about this is how Jay-Z, and there's more details to the story. Like, apparently, it was originally filed in October and Jay-Z took action in November. But basically, how unlike so many celebrities who have been accused, this guy came out ball swinging. And he is like, I'm absolutely appalled. I have nothing to hide. This is absolutely heinous and grotesque. And you know what? Why don't you bump it up instead of civil, make it a criminal case, and I will literally smoke your fucking ass, right? Like, this whole thing. And so that's where people are now wondering, like, okay, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. In my mind, I was like, okay, again, Jay-Z is a very powerful man. So it's almost like a parallel to the tech lords. It's like the powerful against the powerful, right? But I do have, so who knows, like, the team and what he can pull off and what he can do, right? Because there was a part of me that thought, wow, like, he's coming out of this like brazen immediately, just like swinging, which makes me think like, right, you have nothing to hide. But then on the other end of it, I'm like, I honestly trust no bitch these days. Like, who knows who he knows, who he knows, who can pull strings, right? But a little sidebar is you also have the debate about race, right? You've had people from Soulja Boy to Meek Mill saying that this is something that is racially targeted, right? Like, whereas Epstein and Ghislaine were like flocking around on their island, as if they're like on vacation at a sandals resort, whatever, for however many years on end. It's like, now we're going to disproportionately target like black men, right? Which, I feel like this is a debate for another time. Again, it's like, wrong is wrong. And I have to say, in this case, because we've heard that with the NFL too, right? With like Deshaun Watson and all this. And I don't know, call me naive, but in a case like this, it's like Jay-Z is a billionaire. So what would the people going after him or accusing him gain because he's a black man, So that's where, if it is something like what Jay-Z is saying, like extortion or blackmail, like, would probably make sense to go after a billionaire in culture and the entertainment industry, And then you have people like 50 Cent, who notably has had a feud beef with Diddy forever and is Hov's like rival. And this guy is out here because Jay-Z was supposed to produce the Super Bowl. And he's like, okay, but like, with all this, like, am I going to be able to see my Super Bowl show though, or what? Like, what is the tea? So give it up for 50. Also, we'll never forget when I ran into 50 Cent when I was fresh on the scene, like a wide-eyed little deer in Los Angeles outside the VH1 headquarters. And I was wearing this like big J-Lo hat, like before she went insane. And I'm not gonna lie, we had a little like look at each other up and down. I was like, oh, 50, you like this? Yeah. That was before I went on Sex Goddess Body journey. And he was still here. He wanted to make that 50 Cent a little more, if you know what I mean. No, but anyway, so that's, a debate in and of itself. But with this whole thing, right, and power again, is this sort of not only insidious nature of what powerful people may or may not do, but the idea of your reputation, especially these days, forever and immediately being tarnished. And I'll never forget when I had Dave Portnoy on my show to talk about this. But I did see, funny enough, New York Magazine pick it up. And they say that you're essentially synonymous with Barstool's brand of frat boy misogyny. What would you say to that?
I don't think it's sexist to be like, a girl's hot. I think that's like kind of nature.
Human
like,
nature.
You can be respectful and a man. You can be both. It's totally fair.
When he was a target of an insider piece, pegging him, again, no pun intended. I don't mean to do the puns, just write themselves, as a perpetrator. And we come to find out that, again, everything will always be he said, she said. But essentially, we come to find out that these were consensual. Maybe he was a little rough, kinky. They liked it, but potentially, or let on that they did whatever. But either way, we come to find out that it didn't really materialize, and that for the most part, it was consensual, right? But he talked about with me how literally at the drop of the hat, it's also like a narrative. It's like, why would insider go? You talk about like, going after black men. Well, the same could be said about going after conservative men. I'm not saying it's the same, but I'm saying everyone, you talk about self-interest, right? And sometimes with these things, unfortunately, this is why it should be like the equalizer. Again, wrong is wrong, but people do have their motives. So why would people go after Dave Portnoy? Well, the media doesn't like him. He's brash, he's outspoken, he was like cozying up and had more conservative thoughts, cozying up with Trump, all this. So he's bad. Let's take him down, which he said to me at the time. But it's sort of like that immediate erosion of reputation and all you've done. He's like, in my life. And listen, I did this on the Whatever podcast. I don't give a fuck if you have nieces, grandmas, stepmoms, kids, dogs, whatever the fuck you are. You can still be a misogynist, right? Whereas I don't think Dave Portnoy is a misogynist, given that he's said and even what he's done, right? And hiring a CEO who was a woman for Barstool, who completely like made the company explode essentially and blow up. He's like, it's the best decision I ever made. Put Alex Cooper on the map, put Jenna Marbles on the map, who was like an OG YouTuber. Even the way he said, he talked about like women in his life and his mom and all this. And so for like one story to just eradicate all that is sort of scary when you think about it. So it's something to keep in mind with all of this, because I even wonder, like, will Jay-Z's reputation forever be fucked up because of this, right? I gotta say though, even though it's a serious topic, the memes are memeing. Everybody's like, will Beyonce come out of her psychosis, blink for once, and say anything about this? You know, and the conspiratorial, like, oh, how convenient. Like, the Harris campaign paid her an assload of money to talk for 60 seconds. Coincidence. Moreover, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So get your goddamn popcorn, right? Because shit is about to be so real. Expose the power hose, right? That's the real time's up. Like, no more of this shit that is so destructive that people get away with. So, with that said, is the fact that here's the ugly truth, bitch, is that people can use power for good or for bad. And it's our perception of it, like I was saying earlier, right? Again, impact doesn't care about good or bad, it just is. And the fact that you, for whatever reason, are able to mobilize, to affect, to change the minds of people, to get people rallied behind you. Well, again, that could be good, that could be bad. You could even, it could be as someone as like, you can't even like argue, right? All the way over to like, again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I have a hard time believing, even though Steve Jobs was a nut job of Steve Jobs, like, I feel like it would be people would be hard pressed to argue that it was bad, the creation and the innovation that he brought into this world. And if so, like, take your iPhone out of your ass and then talk to me, okay? But all the way to people like Hitler. One of my best friends recently, you guys know I'm a Jew. One of my best friends recently was like, I have to tell you, also history buff. She's like, I've been watching Hitler's speeches, and they're really like so passionate and powerful. Like, I could see why people so easily like got influenced and behind him. Like, they're really like, in a way. And so I was like, bitch, I'm literally looking at her like, but honestly, but there's a part of me that's like, okay, he obviously did what he did. And it's not by being a wannabe podcaster in his mom's basement talking to his 5 friends. I mean, I don't have to like it. It can be disgusting and despicable, but there could also be a component of it that's like, okay, A, it's her opinion, and B, there's truth in it, obviously, because he was able to do what he did. So, with all this said and with all this in mind, right? It just feels like right now, our perception, though, of what is good and bad is so fractured. And how do I know this? I know this because we are a country comprised of deranged individuals who have been celebrating and dressing like the man who assassinated the United Healthcare CEO in cold blood to celebrate him, right? All the way to the Hamas celebrators, all the way to the people upset that the attempted Trump assassin wasn't a millimeter to the left to blow his brains out. So someone like a Hitler being killed, I could understand celebrating, but these? So listen, you know me. I ain't gonna tell you what to do, but it seems like with all of this and the people that we think of as powerful and is in a good way is seriously thwarted. And for lack of a better word, we need to get our shit together.